Hi, everyone. My name is Tom. I'm a resident at Harbor UCLA. I'm very excited to be able to share ddxof, which is my product, with you guys. So ddxof stands for Differential Diagnosis of, and it's a library of algorithms for clinical decision support, diagnosis, and management specifically targeted for emergency physicians and other providers in the ER. And it covers a wide range of topics, some very simple things targeted maybe towards medical students and learners, to more idiosyncratic topics or just things that we need quick reviews on. And those will be the two main applications for these algorithms. So primarily to be used as teaching aids for educators in the emergency department, but also as a tool for rapid review as well. So I actually started this website when I was a medical student, and I was kind of floundering through patient encounters, generating very bizarre differential diagnoses that, missed entire categories that included the correct diagnosis. And when I sought feedback from my preceptors, the comments were often the same, which was that this is just a matter of pattern recognition, and just with more experience, you'll be able to do what it is that we do. And I found that explanation unsatisfying, so I tried to learn a little bit more about what these expert clinicians do. And in learning about metacognition and these processes, I learned that many of these expert clinicians in fact use concept maps, flowcharts, or algorithms as an implicit understanding of the presentation that they're seeing. And so the main focus with these algorithms was to try to make that process explicit for learners, myself at the time, and now for myself as I continue to teach and learn. So as a teaching tool, one example of the ddxof algorithm would be this chest pain algorithm, and it's targeted towards medical students. And what I try to do is leverage the learner's skills at that point. So this would be for a medical student or sub-intern, and it's fractured along lines that are familiar and accessible to a medical student. So at that point, they would know that it starts with the history and physical, and then you might order some things, and you go through the differential diagnosis that way. They are also more proximate to learning about anatomy, and so the conclusion of the algorithm where they're trying to list out the breadth of the potential diagnoses kind of proceeds along an anatomic route. Another example is this algorithm for dysphagia, and you can see that maybe the presentation is a little bit more detailed, and so potentially this is more for like an intern. And it again is fractured along a pathway that is accessible to the learner at that point, so they're starting to be able to grasp some of the more important historical features for evaluating a chief complaint. And then you'll also see that it's divided further based on anatomic or pathophysiologic processes. The other component that I mentioned that these applications are useful for, these algorithms, sorry, is as a tool for rapid review. So for me, for example, if I hear that we're getting a patient with severe burns or something like that, and there's some stress in that situation, and potentially being able to quickly review some of the key things that I need to look out for is helpful. And this algorithm, again, is divided along lines that are familiar to us at this point. So reviewing things that are relevant to management of severe burns along the typical ABCs is helpful for me to inspect quickly. And they're also useful for processes that are a little bit more complex or that require recollection of some things that may not be at the forefront of your memory at the time. So, for example, this algorithm for Kawasaki disease goes through some of the diagnostic pathways, the acute reactants, and stuff like that you might need a refresher on every now and then. So I would like to take a moment just to demo one of the methods for accessing the content. So, this is what the website looks like. So at the front, you'll see some of the example algorithms. Each one is associated with a clinical presentation, so some case that may have prompted its development. And in addition to the algorithm, they often contain other sort of relevant information that is associated with that topic. And if it would load, you would see that they were also appropriately referenced. And there's at this point, there's like well over 100 algorithms. And then I thought I was. You can all go to it. So the URL for the website is ddxof.com, so ddxof.com. I'm also very excited because there is now a free mobile application available for both iOS and Android that contains all of the content that's available on the website. It includes some helpful features like offline caching. So I know a lot of us have sort of unreliable internet access, and so you can still reach the content if you don't have a strong connection. It also allows you to save algorithms as favorites if you find yourself accessing some of them more frequently. And this is just to share one of the things that was mentioned earlier, that one of my main interests is ensuring that the content is unique to what it is that we do, but also available for reuse and sharing. So everything on the website is licensed under Creative Commons Share-alike 4.0, which is one of the more liberal licenses for content sharing. So you can essentially do with it as you please, and attribution is recommended but not even mandated. And the rest of the content actually includes other things that I've released for free, which include unique illustrations that I've developed. So there's currently a library of ultrasound sketches. Some of these images that you see for like hepatobiliary, pelvic ultrasound, ocular ultrasound that you can reuse for your own content, and also a library of ECG tracings that is also for free. And this, like I said, kind of goes along with the mission that we talked about. So the application, website, everything is itself built on free and open source tools. And finally, I just want to thank some of the partners who've helped me get the content out. So WikiEm, EMDocs, POCUS Atlas, and Emergency Medicine News have all helped to promote some of this stuff. And if you have any feedback about the app or the website, my handle on Twitter is Thame, so Thame. Thank you.
So we'll entertain some questions. The other judges took the mics. So yes, please make your way to the microphone. We'll go to microphone number 2.
Thank you. This is very nice, and the way you lay out the flowcharts is visually appealing. If a user sees something that they think, really, I'm an expert in this content area, I think this should be different, is there a way for them to contact you and say, we need to change this?
That's a great question. Yeah, that was one of the more helpful partnerships. So all of the algorithms are posted on WikiEm, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with, but it's a wiki for emergency medicine content. And that partnership actually includes a collaborative approach. So all of the algorithms that I've developed are shared with a WikiEm account so that users of the wiki can actually make changes to the algorithms. And then I can review them, revise them, either incorporate them into the WikiEm version or my own, depending. And that's another point that I try to do, and some of the people from Harbor here know this, that I will always seek out someone to look at the content and review it with me, and it's usually an expert in that field. So I definitely try to get feedback, and the way that the algorithms are made, so that tool that I mentioned, Lucid Chart, is great. You guys should check it out. It makes it very easy to keep the content up to date. So, you know, I frequently notice updates and make changes to everything, and it populates pretty rapidly across all of the content.
Yeah, go ahead, Richard.
It's a great app. It's easy to use. And you're onto something, I think, very, very interesting that is another accusation of social media and foment, is that it allows folks who are relative novices to become intensely expert in certain areas very quickly. That frustrates people who've been doing it for a long time. But what you're on to is that there are certain heuristic shortcuts that experts take. And as I go through the various things that you have there, I can see that you've utilized, like why complex tachycardia was just there, and you have one of these, if they're old and they have coronary heart disease, it's VTAC. You know, that's basically how every EM physician thinks. The only thing is that by making it ddxof, I think you're sort of pigeonholed into diagnostics, and I can see in your thing that you really are getting into procedure stuff and what have you. And have you had any thought on maybe, I mean, you have a great website, and I do like the ddxof, but how can you give users that sense that it's more than just what is causing this patient's abdominal pain?
Yeah, that's true. It's a vestige of the purpose of the site originally. I'm okay with it. It's like a nice short domain, so I've just sort of kept it. And my process instead has been trying to brand it aggressively so that at least some of the visual aspects are both unique and spread across all of the content. So even in like the PowerPoint that I make, there's a certain visual presentation for everything that I hope will carry the message along farther, even if the name has become less accurate with time.
Yeah, the name won't. If you're doing what you say you're doing, then I think you'll be okay. No, if you brand it as a, I don't want to call it shortcuts, but heuristics, right? You know, like quick ways of thinking through problems. I think folks will just say, "Oh, it's ddxof. I don't know why they call it that."
Yeah, that's how it has sort of become.
So a little suggestion, maybe ddxtxof.
Yeah, we just add
DDX,
more
TX.
consonants in a row, I think is the way.
DDTX.
As many consonants as possible.